Hello and welcome. This is Captain Aquarius, doing business and communicating again as Dan First on October the 24th of 2016, bringing you this very unusual, amazing, and promising astrology chart, which is cast for the moment of the Black Moon in the time zone of West Continental Europe. So to give you a little bit of orientation about terms that are applying here, if you are new to this series of videos, the Black Moon is the moment in the lunar cycle when the moon and the sun are in exactly the same position in the zodiac. This is why you see them in the fifth house of this chart, both at the point of 7 degrees and 44 minutes of the sign of Scorpio. This can be thought of as the beginning of the entire lunar cycle, which comes to the full moon 2 weeks later, then returns back through the waning moon to the next black moon interval. Because the moon and the sun are in this exact conjunction at a black moon, this is where eclipses occur. And it's naturally called a black moon because this is happening during the moon's window of invisibility, before the first thin crescent of the new moon appears 2 days later. The special significance of the black moon is that this is the beginning of the cycle. This is the time when all possibilities are in play. This is the time of beginning, of visioning, of imagining, of the conceiving and holding and projecting of intentions, which then can be launched at the new moon and brought to completion and fulfillment at the full moon. This is why the black moon period is especially good for the holding of individual ceremonies of intention for your own personal goals, and even better, for group ceremonies of intention in which an entire circle of people, ideally a group consisting of the sacred number of 13 people, announce their intentions, help each other to refine and strengthen them, and then support them with intentional energy and ideally with sound. This is why a black moon is a moment of opportunity. It's a moment of resetting. And this one is especially powerful, you see, because it comes right before the interval of Halloween, which is followed on the next day, November 1st, by the great Celtic feast of Samhain, which is the beginning of the Celtic year. It is the time when the great Samhain bonfire burns away all of the grudges and the garbage and the emotional sludge from the preceding year, so that everyone can start fresh and positive and new with their commitment to each other and their community. And so this means that during this period of the solar year, that is at the interval of the cross quarter time between the September equinox and the winter solstice, because this period at the end of October, beginning of November, is right between these two, and that's why it's called a cross-quarter feast, also has a black moon falling on it. So the energies of the Earth and solar cycle and also of the lunar cycle are coalescing at this time, which makes it a moment of enormous opportunity for us. Now, you see that this chart is very highly unusual. Instead of choosing this time what is called an American Hub traditional chart in the kind of EO Edition software that I use, the American Hub chart has 12 houses of equal size, you see, each one 30 degrees wide, so the entire wheel therefore adds up to 12 times 30, which is 360 degrees. This one shows a Euro Hub chart, which shows you the actual dimensions of each house in the chart. As you can see, this one is unusual. Some of the houses are enormous. Some of the houses are very narrow. The opposite houses, which are always going to be exactly the same size, of the sixth house, the house of health and illness and service relationships, and the opposing 12th house, which is the house of spirituality, mystical consciousness, dreams, imagination, intuition, also the house of secrets and shadows, of energies and actions and tendencies that are kept hidden and are not yet ready or developed or are not yet strong enough to be expressed overtly in the light of day. These houses are both, as you can see, 54 degrees wide, so they are gigantic if you think that the typical house in a wheel like this in an average house diagram would be only 30 degrees. And there are two other houses that are also very big. These are the fifth house, which is the house of creativity, of children, of play, of sexual affairs, as opposed to long-term relationships like marriages and other committed love unions. This is opposite to the 11th house, which is the house of friendship and community, social activity, social activism. And so, do these houses gain a special prominence in a chart like this? Obviously. So we are going to concentrate some on these houses, but they do not tell the full story, because all of the houses and all of the planets that are in them are relevant in some way, and we will talk about almost all of them as we look at this chart. It is cast for the time zone of West Continental Europe. That is the time zone that is 1 hour ahead of the time zone that is right to the west in England, where the Greenwich Meridian is located. This chart, therefore, is cast for the Black Moon in Brussels, Belgium, the administrative center of the European Union, which now has to cope with and decide how it is going to adjust to and implement the decision taken by the voters of the United Kingdom back in June to exit the European Economic Zone. The other thing that is happening here, obviously, is that this chart is also relevant to Bonn, Germany, the capital of the German federal government, also to the principal economic and cultural centers in Berlin and Munich, because, as we know, Deutsche Bank has been in extreme trouble, and there has been endless speculation about whether Deutsche Bank is going to fail and what the implications of that are going to be. And we pause for a moment to look at specific nuances of languaging. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who tells you that there's going to be a terrifying economic collapse must be considered a doom pimp. Anyone who talks to you instead about necessary economic adjustment, about the way in which we respond intelligently and communally to adjustments that obviously must be made now in the economic system, is someone who is not operating in fear. They are operating more in a spirit of love and service. The same thing applies to the people who are endlessly predicting World War III. If you are in the presence of such people, those people are doom pimps too. And if you wish to live in the frequency of fear, by all means, keep associating with those people. Enjoy food and drink that is colored black that you can share with them, so that you can participate in their vibration of terror and control. The fact is, it is not possible for World War III to begin because it is already going on and has been happening for a while now, ever since the 1990s. The fact is that war is good for business. We have known this ever since World War I, when the nations of the world began to understand in a more collectively cooperative way that it was to their advantage, so they can continue to maintain as much low-level warfare on the planet as they possibly can without risking the destruction of everything. The fact is, right now, the reason why the United States maintains and foments as much war as it possibly can is that it sells more military armaments than the next 25 weapons manufacturing countries in the world put together. Given that economic motive, is the United States interested in peace? Of course not. They are only interested in faking peace. And this is why they maintain continual tension, continual threats, and as I speak, they are painting their own jet fighters with Russian insignia so that they can stage false flag attacks and blame the other country for initiating them. This is the reality that we are dealing with, folks. If you want to understand more about it, check out the video JFK to 9/11. Everything is a rich man's trick. So, now that we have covered some of this general terrain here, and we understand a bit more the tension and the difference and the battle between those who are constantly trying to reinforce fear through lying and propaganda and intimidation on one side, and those who are working for the solution of our differences and the arriving collectively at a spirit of love, we can look at the chart itself. To give you a few notes about this and to begin to tell you more about the trend of the time as it appears in this chart. If you have been following any of these video narrations, then you know that we are coming to the end now of a period that has been in effect since December of last year, and which came to its climax in the middle of October at the full moon, and which is now beginning to fade. The main motor, the main engine of this process is visible in a specific planet alignment that you can see here. If you look in the 7th house of the chart, you see the planet Saturn, the one who looks rather like the letter H with the little horizontal stroke through the vertical part of his sign, in a conjunction with the planet Venus. Now, look up in the 11th house of the chart, and you see that the planet Neptune is up there. Everyone recognizes Neptune's trident, and in conjunction with Neptune is the upside-down horseshoe, which is one of the nodes of the moon. There's another moon's node exactly opposite to it at the bottom of the chart. So as you can see, these symbols that are in opposition with each other along the vertical axis of the chart are in a 90-degree angle to the two planets over on the right side of the chart. This is called a T-cross, and it is necessarily an angle of some tension and disagreement, because the 90-degree angle in the chart, which is called a square, is traditionally considered the angle of disharmonious tension, in which planets are not getting along with each other, and because they are afflicting one another, their less desirable negative qualities tend to emerge. When the planet Saturn in the 7th house is afflicted, then instead of being hard, devoted, disciplined work in the service of important goals, he becomes the extremely conservative force that refuses to hoist anything new aboard or do anything in a different way, even if he is clinging to something that does not work and even endangers his position. When Neptune is afflicted in this way, the way that he is afflicted now by Saturn, instead of being the planet of spirituality, mystical consciousness, dreams, imagination, intuition, empathy, all of these wonderful things, he instead becomes the planet of fraud, of fantasy, of lying, of propaganda, of energy vampire behavior, of victimhood, of people constantly concealing their crimes, lying about their behaviors, and so it is no wonder, therefore, that at this time we see so much lying on the public sphere and in private relationships as well, and this is why so many individual relationships, you may know some of them among people you are acquainted with, are breaking apart because lies and secrets and deceptions that people have held apart from one another are now somehow being discovered or are being revealed, with the resulting damage to the relationship. Fortunately, however, this combination is on the way out, because we notice, you see, that Neptune is at 9 degrees of Pisces and is moving backwards. You can tell that because of the small r symbol, which means retrograde, below the numbers that are associated with Neptune here. Saturn, on the other hand, is at 14 degrees and he is moving forward. You see, so that gradually, as one is moving back, the other, the faster moving Saturn, is going ahead. This square, this 90-degree angle, thank heaven, is finally dissolving. However, Neptune and the two moons nodes, as you can see, are going to remain in this kind of alignment. And so it means, therefore, that all of the possibilities apply here. There may be lying and deception, the results of that, increasing ways in which we see how true it is that dishonesty is invariably the product of fear. And yet it is also possible, because the positive and loving and honest and brilliant aspects of Neptune are no longer afflicted by Saturn here, that people who have been in disagreement, people who have held things secret from one another, are now going to transcend their problems in relationship and are going to come into better spiritual union with each other. This is possible now. There is another extremely important situation that is going on here, which is specific to this moment in time at the Black Moon. Look at the position of Mars the warrior in the sign of Capricorn, in the 9th house of the chart. He is in a sign which actually favors him and which tends to promote more responsible, less impetuous, and destructive behavior on the part of Mars the warrior. However, notice that he is in another one of these 90-degree squares, this one with the planet Uranus, who's located over in the 12th house of the chart at 21 degrees of Aries. This is the classic alignment of exasperation, impatience, with the result that there are possibilities of accidents and mistakes that are going on here, because Uranus is the revolutionary, the bringer of change, the innovator, and he is hidden here in the 12th house of secrets and shadows. We can be sure that things that look like aggressive moves, overt military actions, are at odds with hidden agendas all over the place. And so there is a great deal that is hidden here that may indeed be ready to burst out before long into the light of day. There are countervailing opportunities in this chart. One of them is in the relationship of Saturn and Venus. People who do not understand these planets and their dynamic very well are always inclined to think, oh, if Saturn is conjunct to Venus, then no one wants to kiss me, and no one is going to find me attractive. My love life is going to be out somewhere where I can't find it. No, the fact is that love unions and the magnificent attractive power of Venus can be complemented here by a deep and solid Saturnian commitment to making things work. So this may indeed signify instead the possibility of deeply and strongly committed love relationship. Notice here, you see, that one of the dynamics that is marvelously present is the magnificent relationship between Jupiter, the bringer of optimism, the bringer of prosperity, abundance, enthusiasm, expansion. He is located in the partnership sign of Libra in the 5th house of creativity, in a wonderful angle of about 120 degrees with the ascendant point that you see over at the extreme left of the chart in the sign of Gemini, which means that the ability to be optimistic, generous, confident, and to communicate it honestly and overtly in the manner of a Gemini communicator and messenger are in a very strong angle of alliance here. Another thing which is very notable, which is similar in its implications, is a trio of planets that you see there in the 6th house of the chart. That is, the sun and the moon in exact conjunction, in another close conjunction with Mercury, the messenger and communicator. These are in a 120-degree angle, which we call a trine, with 2 points that you see near the top center of the chart in the 11th house, the planet Neptune, and also the upside-down horseshoe of the south moon's node. So we have 3 planets in the 6th house in this very favorable angle of relationship with Neptune and the south moon's node there in the 11th house. This is a powerful and promising combination because it means that the solar intellectual energy of the sun, the lunar intuitive energy of the moon, and the active, clear communicative energy of Mercury the messenger are in a strong alliance here, which is as well angled as it can be with the best spiritual and creative possibilities of Neptune near the top center of the chart, and also with that south moon's node, which on one level signifies the dissolving and the breaking up of relationships, but which should not be taken literally here. This is indeed a time when we may choose to bring to modification, even to closure, relationships that do not serve us. But we should see also that this is not necessarily relationship with one or more people outside ourselves. This may constitute relationship with our own positions and postures and beliefs concerning love relationship that we hold within ourselves. We may have the opportunity now to dissolve our own resistance and our own negative opinions concerning the possibility of better and more productive relationship. We are coming, in summary, you see, because these positions are so powerfully aligned with each other, there is so much possibility of positive illumination here to a better understanding of our current posture as we are at the end of the age of Pisces, the beginning of the age of Aquarius. We are coming to the point where the negative and toxic features of the end of the Piscean age, which goes through its process of decay, so that the beautiful values of mysticism, of love and alignment with universal possibilities, which were true at the time of Jesus, are now coming to their end at a time when the Piscean values have degraded into hierarchy and scarcity and secrecy, and they are about to be replaced now, and it is our responsibility to work together actively to replace them with the early Aquarian values, synarchy. That is power that is shared equally among those who are in a similar condition of empowerment and are cooperating with each other. We replace scarcity with abundance. We replace secrecy with transparency, and we come to the realization, finally, after a period of 100 years, since Jiddu Krishnamurti talked about this, that we are no longer in the position of only choosing leaders to follow, because Krishnamurti articulated it by saying, it is time now for you to give up gurus and teachers. You are the masters now, and it is time for you to step into that role. And we are at that point of doing this transition, this marvelous creative act that we have all come together to achieve here now at this point in our evolution. It's already going on in Spain, folks, because the fact is, the people of Spain have been without a national government for months now. The political parties are unable to form a coalition, with the result that the people of Spain are running their affairs and governing their localities and municipalities locally with new teams of people. They are not allowing their power and their money to be siphoned off and wasted by corrupt politicians and banks. They are running their country much better than they did before. They are providing a model for the rest of us. So, viva España! Please teach us more. We come now to this marvelous moment of realization and opportunity. It is time for us to do it, folks. Let us get to work and gather and coalesce into community for the betterment of ourselves, our communities, and our entire planet. That's it for now, folks. Be well, peace, courage, keep holding that frequency.